Good afternoon. Thank you for attending our session titled Building a Custom Psychosocial Interventions to Navigate the Isms of Higher Education and STEM Inclusion. My name is Janae Chandler. I currently serve as the director for the Florida Caribbean Lewis Stokes Regional Center of Excellence, and I'm based at Santa Fe College in Gainesville.
Hi, I'm Dr. LaWanda Cummings, and I'm the co-director for the same center at the University of the Virgin Islands.
In a moment, I'll share more about the center, but I want to go ahead and cover what we intend to discuss during this session. And so I just want to briefly highlight our learning objectives for this session. First, we want to identify elements of psychosocial barriers that inhibit or contribute to our students' learning within STEM programs. We also want to help you distinguish between the roles of cognitive and non-cognitive factors and how they impact learning and student success. We also want to share with you the interventions that we've developed and applied so that you have a toolbox of growth mindset interventions that you can apply within your classrooms. You heard me say that I'm at Santa Fe College and that Dr. Cummings is at the University of the Virgin Islands. We are a collaborative partnership that is funded by the National Science Foundation. We are one of 6 original regional centers of excellence that were funded in 2018. The regional centers of excellence are unique from your traditional Lewis Stokes alliances, as we are not all student facing. So for instance, the Florida Caribbean Lewis Stokes Regional Center of Excellence, we're focused on broadening participation by developing new knowledge through research and faculty development. And so we are proud to have University of the Virgin Islands on this project, a phenomenal HBCU. And we're also proud to highlight that Santa Fe College is the only community college to lead our Lewis Stokes Regional Center of Excellence. In order to do the work that we're going to discuss today requires us to tap into psychologists, right, in the psychology background. Dr. Cummings is our in-house psychologist who works on this project as well and guides it with an equitable lens. We also work with Dr. Valerie Purdy-Greenaway from Columbia University, as well as Dr. Omi Fatui at the University of Pittsburgh. And so they have been instrumental in guiding our customized intervention development. Today, you will also hear about our faculty strategies. So these are in-class interventions and activities that faculty do to supplement the psychological interventions that students participate in within the classroom. And so we really tap into faculty experts at HBCUs and those that are familiar with HSIs and community college to really help guide our faculty development. And so we conduct our research and faculty development at LSAMP institutions. And so we're focused on the Central Florida, the Florida, Georgia, and the Greater Alabama Black Belt region, LSAMPs. And so we are thankful for our participating partners, and we also welcome opportunities to bring our trainings and interventions to your campuses as well.
So we want to take some time to really unpack this concept of psychosocial barriers, because a lot of times when we think about learning or the academic performance of students, there's always conversations about instruction, about content. But we also know that there are factors that are inside the person, inside the student, inside their interactions with the environment that have something to do with whether or not they are successful. And so to tap into those, we actually focus on psychosocial interventions. So what we want to do is take a moment to really just talk about some of those psychosocial barriers that may play out in how we do the work that we do. Now, the Florida Caribbean Lewis Stokes Regional Center of Excellence focuses primarily on mindset. We're looking at, in particular, growth mindset that came out of Carol Dweck's work. Now, mindset is defined as really a set of beliefs or ways of thinking that really influences your behavior, your outlook, and your mental attitude. Now, Henry Ford said that if you think that you can or you think that you can't, they're both true. And so this is the same concept. that if we have students that are in a position to believe that they don't have the capacity, then we actually see that manifest in the academic space. So some of the factors that we know that pop up in the literature over and over again around barriers for STEM performance and inclusion for URMs include things like stereotype threat, where a student may feel that a student looks like me or that comes from my background is not expected to do well in a math or science class, and then they manifest that. The other one is self efficacy, which in psychology, we also align with the idea of agency or confidence. And so, if a student doesn't feel that they have the capacity to actually do well in a class, then we see that play out in non cognitive spaces like effort or them actually putting in energy or motivation around the work. Implicit theories of intelligence is really where you have a student who will think that intelligence is something that is set. So I am either smart or I'm not. But we know that being able to perform well in a math or science class or any content area really is about effort and energy that is put into gaining mastery around the content. And we also know that there are other psychological factors like sense of belonging, where if a student doesn't feel connected to the school, connected to the context or to their peers, then they also will usually disengage and not persist in their STEM education. And the last thing is this idea around STEM identity. For many of the women and populations that have not been included in these STEM populace or careers, they don't see someone that looks like them. And therefore, the idea of who can be a scientist or an engineer or a doctor ends up being something completely different than what they see in themselves. And therefore, they don't tie their identity to this concept of a STEM identity. So in our initial year, we actually built out a pilot intervention with our fabulous social psychologists. And we looked at the literature as our basis for being able to figure out what it is that we wanted to address. And so across all of the campus, we had interventions for our students that focused on value affirmation, which is really about shifting the implicit ideas or concepts for the student so that they're in a position to focus on or give positive value to the things that would actually promote their academic performance. The other is implementation intention, which is different than like a goal or a plan, but it really is coming up with the steps to actually implementing some type of goal or plan or action towards their academic performance. But what we found was it didn't really play out that way for our students because our institutions are primarily focused on HBCUs and community colleges. When we saw that these variables did not play out the way that we anticipated, we saw a need for us to start building out customized interventions. And so we want to really break down or talk about the customized intervention design process because we are of the belief that we don't want to use a cookie cutter perspective around our student success. So when we talk about customized design process, the first thing is to look at institutional diversity. So amidst our community colleges and HBCUs, we had to take into considerations around whether or not it was a HBCU, a HSI, a PWI, whether or not we were serving rural or urban populations, whether it was non-traditional or traditional students that were there to get degrees. We also looked at aspects around whether or not students were there to get a traditional liberal arts degree or if what was being offered was more trade focused. And then whether or not these institutions ended up being public or private. All of these aspects have a lot to do with what type of needs may manifest amidst the student population.
And so, in addition to the uniqueness of each of the institutional demographics, we also wanted to ensure that we incorporated input from students and faculty within this intervention design process. And before we implemented anything, we took time to conduct student focus groups and surveys on each of our campuses. So across our HBCU and community college partners, we completed site visits where we were able to um, meet with students and find out what their experiences are like on their campuses, to identify their concerns about going to college, and to really understand their perceptions of faculty and administrators at their campus. And so we took that information, we triangulated that with faculty input, as well as historical data around student grades, the institutional factors around, you know, Pell status, enrollment patterns. We use all of that information to help us frame our intervention, as well as the student support services that were available on that campus. And so we took all those things into consideration. And so this year, what we reconvened our research team and to really look at the variables and the outcomes to find out if we're on target about where we want to go for our customized intervention. And we actually found out that we needed to pivot, we needed to shift from values affirmation and goal setting, because those areas did not resonate with all of the students, with majority of the students in our sample. And so where we landed was focused on adaptive mindset, right? This is this idea of I don't have to do this alone, and that other students and other people experience challenge, and that we can adjust and accommodate to reach our goals. And we can do this through informal and formal supports. And so this year, our intervention is really looking at our students' relationships with family, friends, as well as faculty and staff, mentors. That's a key to our custom intervention that came out of that informed data that we did in our pilot study. We're also looking at institutional mindset, right? We want to see if institutions are student ready. We're looking to see if institutions have positive mindsets about students, and if faculty have positive mindsets about students. And so all three of these components came out of making sure that we incorporated student and faculty voice within our customization design. And a part of what we do, in addition to supplement our self-administered psychological intervention, we also conduct faculty-facing interventions. And how we do this through a few ways, right? So we have an annual conference where faculty will come to wherever the location is, and we go into in-depth analysis and research and training. Faculty are given opportunities to customize the strategies we discuss to fit their curriculum and their classroom environment, which is really effective because we don't want to teach pedagogy. We want faculty to adapt these best practices and these interventions to fit their courses, right? But also challenging them that these are necessary, right? And the second piece that we do is a virtual series. We did 2 virtual series this year in lieu of our annual conference because of COVID-19 cancellations. And so one series that we did was developing and modeling growth mindset. And so our faculty participated in interventions themselves within the training so that they can understand the student learning process. And the second one that we're currently in right now is cultural competency in higher ed, right? And so we give faculty the opportunities to supplement what we're doing with the student intervention with tangible action items within their classroom. Go ahead, Dr. Cummings.
And so in our conference training, we focused on really 3 simple things that every instructor could take into the classroom. It's not based on pedagogy, it's not based on the content area, but really 3 simple things that could be implemented in the classroom to promote growth mindset among their students. The first was really exposing students to the idea, the definition, the reality of growth mindset, so that they're in a position to make an adjustment, a shift in how they think about learning and their own capacity. The second was to create on purpose, deliberately in the classroom, a culture and a community amongst their students around growth mindset and the fact that learning could happen with effort. And the third thing was for teachers to implement boosters in the classroom. Because after a test, after a long semester, you may see that students will begin to drift back to previous fixed mindset ideology. These boosters then help the students be able to kind of reset. And so this may manifest as a letter from a previous student that was successful in the class so that they could go back to this idea that they had the capacity to be able to do well if they were willing to contribute the effort, the motivation, and the time to the work. We also provided to each of these faculty members a growth mindset toolkit, which is available on our website at mindsetsforstem.org. And we welcome you to also access that information. So what we want to do now is just really share with you the voices of faculty members, one at a community college and then one at a HBCU.
Hi, my name is Ross Brooks. I'm a professor of mathematics and statistics at Tallahassee Community College, and I've been teaching STEM for 10 years at TCC and 14 years altogether. Regarding diversity at our college is committed to fostering an educational philosophy that values the input and inclusion of all individuals and cultural groups within our institution and the communities we serve. Just looking at our demographics this fall, 48% of our students are full-time, while 52% are part-time. 32% of our students are African-American, 14% are Hispanic, 47% are white, and about 7% either identify with another group or did not specify their race. 71% of our students are 21 or under, 11% are 22 to 24, and 18% are 25 or older. So we have a pretty traditional group of students at TCC. 56% of the student population is female, while 44% identify as male. Now, I've incorporated several student intervention techniques to my classroom to help address this. So each semester, I start students with a reading. They have a growth mindset article to show that they can grow their brain with productive persistence and productive struggle. I try to build a sense of community by using a video introduction discussion board at the start of the semester. And I also use what I call test boosters throughout the semester. So these are just surveys that look into what strategies students are planning to use to study for their test. Are they going to make note cards? Are they going to use a study guide? Are they going to use our tutoring center? And I also ask them what concepts for that test they feel comfortable with and what concepts they're planning to focus more on. And this semester, I'm also providing students with an opportunity for revision by allowing them to retake one of their unit tests. So these are things that I do in my classroom. Now, our college president likes to say that TCC is the college of choice, that our students are choosing our community college because they may not be ready for the academic atmosphere of a large university just yet. So these mindset interventions for our STEM students are important. Our students may need a little more support on learning how they best learn. And implementing these growth mindset interventions aids in that. Our students don't just need the concepts of a particular course, but they need encouragement and they need support in their growth as students. Now, if I could share, one thing with other faculty about a best practice, from personal experience, I would say building a sense of community is one of the most important things in the classroom. If a student builds relationships with his or her peers and the instructor, that student's more engaged throughout the semester and is more likely to persist and to be successful. So that building a sense of community, to me, is the best practice, the most important thing.
So we're really grateful for the perspective that Ross was able to bring to this particular conversation. But our partners also include HBCUs. And it's important for us to kind of think about the fact that at a historically Black college or university, they're dealing with a very specific population that's different than what Ross was talking about, and a different set of needs for in regards to URM inclusion. And so we're going to now hear from Dr. Howard from Bethune-Cookman.
Hello, and thank you for participating in this session. My name is Dr. Wilson Howard, and I'm a faculty member at the Great Bethune-Cookman University. I've been teaching at Bethune-Cookman University for the last 5 years. I've been teaching in all for up to 10 years. Now, one of the key things that we dealt with as far as being at HBCU, our students in STEM don't always have the greatest amount of confidence in their abilities to complete the different assignments and become the biologists, the chemists, the computer scientists, the mathematicians that they set out to be. So as faculty members, we not only present content, we also have to mold the students and help shape their mentalities so that they know that they are good enough and they can attain these goals. What are critical factors that we feel our students need to be addressed in a student intervention, especially one that is to help them do well in their classes and obtain their career goals, like our Growth Mindset project through the Florida Caribbean Louis Stokes Alliance and Center for Excellence? The one thing that I can think of is we have to be able not only encourage our students, present the content to our students, but engage with them. Traditionally in the classroom, we used to be able to see this light bulb come on when we knew our students understood that concept. That is much harder on an online platform when all you see is their name the majority of the time. You have to listen out for when they may or may not ask a question. So we've learned a couple of different strategies through the Growth Mindset program that we've been implementing at Bethune-Cookman. We have our intro as well as our general chemistry courses and biology courses that are participating in the Center for Excellence. So some of the different strategies that we've implemented include, we have our students doing reflections. So when they learn a new concept, they then describe that learning process and what they didn't know and what they do understand and how they would teach it to someone else. That gives them a chance to reflect on the material and then also explain it in their own words. This we found to be very valuable and helpful. Another technique that we use is we ask them to submit assignments in different modalities. So traditionally, we usually have text modality where they will, write an assignment up. Well, now that we have video platforms and we're doing the classes online, we're asking our students to sell video answers, whereby they respond in audio as well as visual recordings. And the students are able to engage with the material, and we can then see where the students struggle and where's the light bulb. And some of the best parts about the video recording is you're able to hear them when they're talking to themselves. And you can identify the different issues that the students have as they work through the problems. That has been very valuable. Other students struggled with the assignments where all they did was read their notes. And so another technique that we use is as you go through their different assignments, you provide feedback, valuable feedback that is straight to the point, sometimes not really harsh, but really pointing out where they need assistance and where they need to change their approach. And then always encouraging and uplifting them at the end of that feedback, letting them know, I know next time you're going to do a great job. I know your next presentation is going to be better. I know next time this is going to be on point. I could tell you got it, but try this. Just giving them that feedback, I think is very, very valuable. It is worth it because the attendance in my class is beginning to increase. And now I can call on students. I know their name. I know what they know. I know where they struggled. And so when I see their name, I now have a visual because I've seen a video. And now I know how this student goes through his notes, how this student, understood the material and how they would explain it. So having them do videos has been very, very helpful.
We're very grateful for the addition of this perspective from our valuable contributor from HBCU. Now, the center is charged not just with serving students or with creating interventions, but also to contribute to the literature. And we're really doing that with our faculty by creating a professional learning community, a community in which they can learn one to another and relate to one another the successes and the failures around implementation in the classroom. And so we've created the growth mindset ambassadors that are striving towards creating theory or taking theory to action research in the classroom. They apply the strategies and they're becoming not only practitioners, but also researchers so that they can use reflective practice in their teaching to look at the ways in which this is improving the process for their STEM students. And we know that this is critical because honestly, when we look at the literature, there's very little representation for HBCUs and community colleges and what constitutes a successful pathway for STEM students and for their inclusion in STEM careers.
And at this time, we just want to say thank you and for attending, and we'll be here to answer any questions that you may have.